Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Delgado and welcome to this webinar about gamification design. I hope you learn a thing or two about this framework and that by the end of the course you will be able to implement a couple of these strategies into your teaching practice. So let's begin. Games are universal. You can find games in every culture throughout history, even in the animal kingdom. You might say that we're born as gamers. So why is it that as we get older, we often seem to find less and less time for games? Games stimulate the brain and encourage collaboration as well as competitiveness. Games allow for learning to take place in a fun and engaging space. Our students are gamers. According to the 2019 Evolution of Entertainment study, the latest report from the NPD Group, 73% of Americans ages 2 and older play video games. When asked, 80% of them claim to have played a game yesterday, which means that they're regular gamers. Our students understand games. They know which games are fun to play and which ones are not. Not all games are created equal. So, what is it about some games that make them irresistible? Why do some games keep you coming back for more? Which ones make you continue to think about them long after you're done playing with them? One question I ask myself during my lesson planning is, how can I make learning as addictive as games? These are all good questions I hope to cover during our time today. One study shows that the social interaction provided within games truly benefits learning. Games can provide a structured framework for a collaboration by establishing constraints through rules, resources, and time limits. And it can be all in good fun. So in this webinar, we will explore some different ways of learning through games. First, we will look at how you can use games in your learning environment to engage and motivate your students. Next, we'll go over some principles of gamification strategies like choice, failing, role-playing, and smart missions to provide some flexibility and choice into your classroom and keep your students coming back for more. We will also see some examples of how teachers are using games such as Minecraft Education Edition to foster creativity and collaboration. Finally, we'll look at how you can engage your students by using Classcraft, a gamified platform to keep your students interested and invested with interactive lesson plans, storytelling, and playful tools that keep them excited to learn, all while making it easier for you to promote positive behavior or PBIS. I also hope that you will come away with an action plan to implement some of these concepts with your students. There is no right or wrong to try these ideas out. Do what feels right for your own classroom. Traditionally, games have been viewed as a form of entertainment or hobby. However, they have also become a growing trend in formal settings, such as industry or education. Games are obviously engaging, addictive, and motivational, but additionally, they can also be used as a powerful tool to shape behavior, which directly supports PBIS and social-emotional learning. For the video game development expert, Jay McGonigal, in the world of games, even if players aren't good enough, they can still have an extremely enjoyable experience. This is because games offer a safe space in which to fail and learn, challenging users and providing not only immediate feedback but also social connections. Game designers have specialized in how to make the gaming experience so memorable and addictive that even when they stop playing, users carry on thinking about strategies to solve the challenges that arise. A frequent complaint of some students is that they perceive school as boring and ineffective, so educators continuously seek to innovate their teaching methods to more dynamic, active, and engaging environments. This has led to the following questions about educational settings. What makes game settings or games so good? What can educators learn from the gaming industry and apply to their teaching strategies? How can they design projects and content that are as attractive as games? Game settings have the capacity to hold users' attention and constantly challenge them. Apart from their notable power of motivation, games lure students to participate in them, very often without any reward, but just for the pleasure of playing and enjoying an engaging experience. Therefore, the use of games or gaming elements has gained the power to transform learning environments. In this way, learning and feedback combined with play can transform schools into a far more exciting environment. The benefits of incorporating game elements into educational settings are not only translated in terms of motivation. A school setting enriched with game elements can enable students to progress at their own pace through personal, timely feedback and also develop skills such as problem solving, collaboration, and communication. Gameplay is unique to each player and each opportunity. I can play Monopoly today with a family, but if I play the game next week with coworkers, the game is different. So it is not the game itself that makes it a game. It is how the elements of gameplay are designed to make the game. Being unable to overcome a challenge in a game setting does not affect participants' self-esteem or motivation. On the contrary, competitors keep on trying over and over again. Games open up the possibility of different problem-solving strategies, thus driving players to be creative in formulating their diverse attempts. This dynamic is interesting in that it allows players to obtain new knowledge, develop new skills, and even change their attitudes. If you think about it, games do a great job at supporting failure. And the way to do this is by not pushing you over too much if you don't succeed at something. So if your character dies, typically what would happen in a game is that you would go back to the beginning of that level and try again. And this encourages certain things like trying things out in different ways, which is something that we all want our students to do. So losing with a well-conceived strategy compels the player to actually try again. And learning how to strategize prepares students to work through complex issues like understanding the rise of civilizations, for example, or designing a prototype for renewable energy. Another gamification strategy that I love using with my students is choice, because games embody choice. The difference between work and play, it is choice. And choice makes students care a lot more about the work they are choosing to do in our class when we give them options that allow them to explore different ways of reaching that goal that we want them to achieve. Autonomy is a critical skill we want our students to learn. This is a principle that comes from self-determination theory. This is key in a game design environment and also key in a well-designed learning environment. And what I mean by autonomy support is that the player gets to make choices about what they do in the game. They could choose to go through the door on the left or go through the door on the right, or they might get to choose what player they want to play with. In a game, the point is for the player to get to make choices that matter. In classroom environments, we also want to provide support for students making choices that matter. That the path they choose lets them explore different topics at a pace that agrees with them. In your own course, you want to have defined what each or all of your students are exploring by allowing them to find different ways through the topics. We can actually help many more students find their way through. And this is related to concepts that are commonly talked about today, such as personalized learning. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to let everybody do whatever they want as a free-for-all. Consider, for instance, what it means to get a small child dressed for school in the morning. If you say to the child, "What do you want to wear to school today?" that's often a disaster. What they'll say is, I'm going to dress like a princess, or I'm going to dress like a unicorn. But if you say, "Which do you want to wear, this outfit or this outfit?" and you provide some carefully curated autonomy, that works just as well. The idea is that you've given the learner a meaningful choice, and by allowing them to make a choice, they're going to be more invested in what comes next. Winning and feedback in a game is often a built-in reward system. To some people, winning is solitary and pride-instilling. To others, it's not as important as reaching goals or discovery. Games provide different experiences, so no one game will fit a certain class. Instead, approach games with the skills you may want to explore with different themes or units. Gauge students' interest in games as you see how they respond to point systems. If we look at the most successful apps out there, we will find they use gamification strategies to grow. This is in part because as human beings, we are naturally driven when we have a clear goal in mind to accomplish. Knowing how far the end goal is will help us going in a classroom setting. That means better engaged students and happier teachers. LinkedIn, for example, does a great job of designing the process and the progress bar when you are creating your profile. Showing your profile strength drives people to take steps towards 100% completion. There is a limited number of steps in the progress bar that shows a clear way to complete the task with a rewarding end result, a strong profile. But what is better than knowing your goal? Being rewarded for it. Companies like Starbucks will use reward systems to boost sales, their loyalty schemes. That way, customers are encouraged to shop more exclusively at their company. In the same way, students who reach their academic goals are rewarded by being more engaged in school by improving their academic performance. This theory is based on operant theory, which suggests that all actions are motivated by rewards, but still acknowledges the existence of extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Of course, prizes or praise are prime examples of extrinsic rewards as motivating behavior. Operant theory also offers that students may be intrinsically motivated when they engage in behaviors they enjoy because the reward is the behavior itself. There are several ways to reward students, and this will depend on your classroom expectations, teaching style, and subject you teach. These are some examples of classroom reward options. First, we have social rewards, which involve attention, praise, and thanks. This is the most basic type of reward for intrinsic students, and it can include verbal praise, nods, smiles, and celebrating achievements. Then we have recognition. This type of reward appeals to extrinsic students and includes trophies, plaques, ribbons, a certificate in recognition of achievement, or a sticker with an affirming message. Additionally, you can recognize their efforts by a photo recognition board in a prominent location in school or a classroom, or just send an email to parents or guardians. And finally, we have privileges. This can include choosing a class activity, giving students a no homework pass, listening to personal music while working, choosing a movie to watch while working, or any other privilege you consider appropriate for your own classroom. This can be decided by the teacher beforehand or by students. Most games do an excellent job of encouraging what we would call role play or identity play. This is the idea that you identify with the player on the screen, and it also helps you form part of your own identity. This is an idea that comes from Jim G, and he talks about three-part or tripart identity. This notion that there is the character on the screen that you're controlling, there's you, the player, and then there's some mix between you and the character on the screen. And if you think about times when you might have played games, if the character dies, you might feel like you've let down the character down a little bit. That's the blending of you and the character. In a school context, ideally, when we are teaching science, for instance, we might say that we are encouraging students to think like scientists. Or history. Sometimes it is taught as a series of facts, but it's much better to teach history as learning how to think like an historian. That's identity play, and it's a key part of a well-designed games and well-designed learning environments. And it's something that we definitely want to build into our gameful learning environments. This links directly to authentic learning, that is, when we present to our students a real-world situation where they must use the skills and concepts covered in our class in order to solve it. As a world languages teacher, I know students need a lot of practice to internalize important vocabulary and structures. However, for the practice to be meaningful, students must be engaged. Through fun games, students willingly use the vocabulary and structures, repeatedly gaining much needed practice. One such example is Minecraft Education Edition. Many people will describe Minecraft as a sandbox game, meaning there's no real endgame, but rather the player is discovering and crafting. Certain players have immersed themselves in this world and are lost in building and creating. Minecraft is a great way to let students explore and be engaged with academic concepts of science, language, math, and geography. This is one example of how Minecraft can be used in the classroom. For this project, students took the role of engineers in charge of designing and building a bridge with strong materials in order to withstand a natural disaster. So again, role-playing is essential for a gamified classroom. Students must have a role, have an obstacle or challenge to overcome, and showcase their learning, thus making learning visible. Students had to do research, sketches, and engage in class discussions before they started playing Minecraft. They were also presented with real-life events and situations, and finally, they were presented with a challenge. In Minecraft, students can collaborate with one another and explore the different materials and designs. As you can see in the examples here, students got creative with their designs. This project engaged students in ways that other tools or strategies might not have been able to. And finally, students had to keep in mind the criteria that was going to be used to grade their projects in the rubric that we can see here, which actually included writing a cause and effect essay, using APA citations for their researches, and having evidence of their learning process. Mission refers to the goal of your gamification activity. It has to be identified with care since it determines the ultimate success or failure of your efforts. In this section, I will discuss the aspects to consider when choosing a meaningful mission that can be used in your lesson to help improve student engagement and success. The key aspect to consider in setting an effective mission are: understand the current scenario, understand the learning outcomes, and identify a smart mission. Begin with a good understanding of the problem you're trying to solve, or learning outcome you expect your students to achieve. Based on this understanding, set a smart mission. Let's examine each of these steps next. The current scenario is what the players, those are your students, do today. It involves knowing what learning outcomes you want your students to achieve. The best way to get this information is through your course syllabus and find where your students are in terms of skills. The goal is to develop a strong empathy with the target players. An effective way to do this is through design thinking. Based on an analysis of the current scenario and an understanding of the learning outcome, we can identify a mission for our gamification project. I recommend that the gamification mission be specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. These elements are encapsulated in the acronym SMART. Let's take a look at the next video and try to identify the 3 SMART mission aspects.
Hi, I'm Kevin Richardson. I'm the winner of Volkswagen's Fun Theory Award. My idea was the speed camera lottery. Could we get people to obey the speed limit through fun? I really believe that fun can change human behavior for the better, and I was really thrilled to see that my idea, which started as a scribble submitted into this competition, might even become reality. The speed camera lottery would do 2 things. One, it would photograph speeders and give them a citation, and that money goes in a pot. But if you're obeying the law, your picture will also get snapped. You'll be entered into a lottery and win some of that money from those speeders.
Jag kör alltid lagligt, men tveksamt om man vinner.
Det är ju en bra positiv grej det där. Kör lagligt och tjäna deg, det är perfekt.
Were you able to identify some of the aspects of a SMART mission? Take a look at the examples in the current slide and compare them to the ones you found. Are they similar? Different? Do you think you can apply these SMART mission strategies to your classroom? Next, let's look at an amazing platform that will help you use everything we have covered today and more in a single place. This is Classcraft. Classcraft is a platform that uses gamification or gameful learning. As we can see here, it looks very much like a game. Students have avatars that they create. They have gears, they have weapons, they have pets, and everything mirrors what you would see in a game. But this is just for educational purposes. So I'm going to go over it and explain how you can use this in your classroom. So first here on the left, you notice that we have HP. HP in a game stands for health points. And that's pretty much the health that your character has in a game. In the classroom, HP is related to behavior. And if you can see here, I'm going to click right here so you can see the example. It prompts you the negative behaviors in which a character or a student, in this case in the class, would lose points. This could include not following safety rules, arguing with others or the teacher, coming to class unprepared, speaking out of turn. You can add as many negative behaviors here according to what the handbook says in your specific school. Or you can modify whatever you want from here. You can also change how many points they lose. So everything is very much customizable. All right. So whenever they lose points, they will see that reflected here, and you can see the names up here, how they have lost points or not. The next element of gamification that we have here is AP. This in a game stands for attack points, and these are pretty much what would allow a character in a game to provide a powerful attack. All right, when they're battling a boss or something like that. In the classroom, this would give benefits to the student. So this is one of the most fun ways for students to use Classcraft for them, because they earn points, AP points or attack points, in order to exchange those points for real class benefits. I will show you a couple of examples. If you notice here, they have powers. These powers consume AP points every time they use them. For example, they can be very, very small and game related, like all team members except mages gain 7 attack points. It could be something like the mage can trade places with any of their classmates. Or this one, the mage can leave the classroom for up to 2 minutes. You can customize whatever benefits, whatever privileges, as we had seen before, you want to provide your students in your classroom. You can come up with these privileges either together with your students, or you can just set them up beforehand. The stronger or the bigger the benefit, the more AP it will consume out of their characters. They can learn more powers. They can learn up to 9 different benefits or attack points or powers in Classcraft. And they will cost them these hands. They earn these hands the more they work, the more they turn in assignments, and the better they behave. They will earn more points that you provide them so that they can purchase these benefits. So they're not free, they have to earn them. For example, time wrap, if they earn that, they would get extra 8 minutes to beat an exam. So that's extra time you could give them. You can provide them, the opportunity to turn in an assignment a day later if that's one of the things that you decide it's appropriate for your classroom. So these are all customizable as well. So we have covered health points, which relate to negative behaviors in the class, attack points, which are benefits that they can have for working and exhibiting good behavior. And this is the good behavior. XP stands for experience points. They earn experience points by positive behaviors. So this supports PBIS, or positive behavior intervention and support, like listening and speaking respectfully, following directions, using appropriate language, coming to class prepared. And again, you can add as many more positive behaviors you seem appropriate for your classroom. And finally, we have GP. These stand for gold points, and these are pretty much for extrinsic students, those who are motivated extrinsically, and these are used for customizing the characters, for buying different gears, for buying pets, for buying whatever they want that is character related. They also have teams. You assign the teams however you want, and as you can see right here, they all have different levels. That means that they have all advanced. They all have different levels in real life. And this supports personalized learning because everyone advances at their own pace. As you can see, they all have different health points, different attack points, and different experience points. And this reflects to how they perform in the class as well. The next thing I will be showing you is how they complete assignments. So you don't have to do anything extra for your class. You will do the same assignments that you would usually be doing, but these will give it a layer of a game, right? So if you go to Quest, you will see a world in which they complete the activities. For example, this one right here, it looks like a lot, right? Because here I would allow them to have multiple pathways to complete an assignment. They don't have to complete all of them because other ways will open up for them to choose, okay, I think I like this activity more than this other activity. They will all have the same objective to fulfill. They're just different options they might have, right? So for example, this unit was about poetry. So we're exploring different themes of poetry, for example. They would have to read a poem, which would be attached there with the questions. The poem would be right there, pre-reading, post-reading questions, examples. And they would be turning this in here into Classcraft. So this would be exactly the same way that you would be giving your class, but you are putting everything into Classcraft so that students can benefit from the gamification or gameful learning. Here in settings, you can create a self-paced progress for students. That means that as soon as they finish one activity, they move on to the next one. And so like that, they can move at their own pace. Or you can untick it if you want to review activity per activity as a whole class as well. This is up to you, absolutely. You have a due date right here with the time. This is the reward, so you can choose to give them 50 points if they complete this activity, or 100 points of experience points, and you want to give them maybe 100 points so they can buy more things for their character. You decide this, however, and whatever works for you in your classroom. Okay, and these are just other assignments, other quests that there are. So they can be as complex or as simple as you want. You can create them. The good thing about Classcraft is that they have this marketplace right here, and a lot of teachers have already created a lot of complete quests that you can just import into your worlds for students to complete. They can be very, very simple. Maybe this grammar quest is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps because this is the introduction only, or they can be as complex as the one that you just saw. This is extremely and totally up to you. The point is for you to provide students with options, with gamification benefits, so that they can benefit from your class. And the last point I want to point out here is this right here. These are class tools. The one that I love using is boss battles. As the name says, it is a formative review, and this is used for reviewing topics this is a buzz, which is a formative quiz that don't really give them points in the grade book, but it is a great way for them to review. So basically, you prepare a quiz. You can choose to have a class battle between teams or picking students randomly. And the way it works is that you prepare a set of questions that you want them to answer about your unit, right? And it will pick a random students to answer whatever statement you have there. If they get it right, like here, correct, they will inflict damage, or well, this time it missed, but you can inflict damage to the boss, like that, right? So the HP, the health point bar, decreases from the boss. If the player gets it wrong, then it will inflict damage to the player. Now, the cool thing about Classcraft is that there are 3 classes. There's a warrior, there's a mage, and there's a healer, right? So the warrior has the ability to protect. You can just deal with damage later because you don't want to hurt their HP on this. You just want to play. This is however you would like to do it in your class. All right, and when they finish the questions, this was a critical hit. When they finish the questions and the boss depletes all the HP or all the health points from the boss, then you win the game, and they earn a lot of XP as a reward, right? So this is a great way for formative review. We have a volumeter, random events, random picker if you want to pick a student or a team randomly for a project or for topics. You can use this one. So there are many tools, many different ways that you could use Classcraft. I find this to be a very, very useful tool, at least for me, and for all of my classes I use them, because I find that students really benefit from all the strategies and all the benefits that gamification has to offer. And I'm sure your students will benefit from a gamified environment as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have come away with some ideas and an action plan to implement gamification strategies into your classroom. Whether it's in the form of a reward system, providing students with choices, developing a smart mission, or using games in your learning environment. Feel free to share your ideas, questions, or success stories to me at jonathan.delgado@thevillageschool.com. Thank you again for your time, and game on.